And hello, everybody. Welcome to Narrative Live on a Tuesday evening, an election Tuesday evening. There is an election going on, and it's a pretty good one. Well, I guess if you're a Republican, it's a pretty good one. It looks like they've somehow managed to reconfigure the Republican base to allow for another Republican victory. We'll see what happens later on. It's too early to call the Virginia governor's race, but we are going to talk about that probably more in detail tomorrow when Sherry Jacobus is going to be here and a full panel to analyze everything that's going on election day tonight. But the reason we're not doing too much election stuff tonight, although we will be watching every time there's a big winner or loser, we'll bring it up, is because we're talking tonight to someone who I've never thought about this, but we've never had a GOP candidate for the Senate here on the show, because we mostly have people who are not from the GOP. But now, tonight, we are very happy to welcome the GOP candidate for Senate for Pennsylvania, Everett Stern. How are you, Everett? Nice to have you on the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You're here under very difficult circumstances. You're here not because you're talking policy. You're not talking about your run for, is it Toomey's seat that you're running for in the Senate?
Yes.
That's not why you're here. You're here because on the weekend, we were all having, a typical weekend. We sort of knew what was coming up in terms of the news agenda, but you threw a curveball into the weekend with a press conference, which, it really was a bombshell press conference. There was something that we had not even anticipated hearing and nothing that we had heard of before. And basically you detailed in great detail how Michael Flynn, the lieutenant general who has been running around this country, brainwashing people, some would say, certainly organizing a militia, being involved in the insurrection. You were involved in witnessing and revealing that he is involved in an extortion plot or a blackmail scheme to blackmail politicians in order to support their audits of the election results. We'll go through all of it in detail, but is that basically a correct summary, if I can summarize it? Is that really what you're alleging against Mr. Flynn or General Flynn?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically in a nutshell, but really what this comes down to, where I wanted to get out the press conference and get out to the American people, where I felt there was an imminent danger of a possible domestic terror attack. And that's where I needed to get out this information as fast as possible in the timeline that I did, and in the manner in which I did. I apologize, a little nervous here.
No worries.
But yeah, it's a very serious situation going on with General Flynn. Because what I saw and what I witnessed was a group of people who are not messing around and who are undermining our democracy, and who are causing a situation where, look, the very fabric of our country and the very fabric of what everything our founding fathers stood for is being undermined. And look, if you have a group of people who believe that President Trump is the president of the United States and not President Biden, we have a very serious problem. And we have a large group of people taking orders from a 3-star general who is no longer in power, and also a president who is no longer in power, and that's a huge problem. And again, what was said to me, which hit all alarm bells, was, by the Patriot Caucus and by this group, was we will use by any means necessary, including domestic terrorism, to accomplish our mission. Right. And by that statement alone, look, I will do everything in my power to defend the United States of America. And that's what prompted me to give that press conference. And I did not get into a lot of details in that conference, but I certainly gave enough away to alert the appropriate people.
So let's underline the really important things here, because you're saying that there is an extortion scheme, there is a blackmail scheme, but there is also a threat of domestic terror against potential individuals, potentially other kind of domestic terror attacks by these groups in order to get to where they want to get, which is presumably not just the audits. They're trying to do a lot more than just get to audits of the elections or whatever it is. They're trying to, what are they trying to do? Do you know what they're trying to do?
Yes, in Pennsylvania and all across the United States, They are trying to get Trump back into office. That is their main objective.
Mhm.
Number one, get Trump back into office, because they believe that this election was stolen.
Mhm.
And this has been, told to the American people, and you could say brainwashed or any other term, but disinformation has been given out to the American people, and a lot of Republicans and these QAnon nutcases have bought into this, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to get Trump back in, and they believe he is the president, and Trump is allowing this to happen, and what needs to happen is President Trump needs to step forward. I'm sorry, not President Trump. Ex-President Trump needs to step forward. See, they even had me partially brainwashed there for a second. But what needs to happen is ex-President Trump needs to step forward and clearly state to the American people that he is no longer the president, and he needs to tell these individuals to step down. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is you have a well-orchestrated, you could say militia or well-orchestrated group, which I'm going to diagram out for you guys and make sure that everyone understands exactly what is happening within this group and who the players are, and really how to defeat them. And really how to defeat them, I believe, is public exposure, which I'm doing now. But unfortunately, instead of telling the truth to the American people that the ex-President Trump is no longer in office, and that General Flynn is instead he is orchestrating with General Flynn, with Ivan Reichlin, his attorney, with Giuliani, with Sidney Powell, and with the Patriot Caucus to overturn these audits and to overturn the election results in the United States of America for President Trump.
Now, nothing you're saying here, nothing you're saying about these audits is untrue. We already know these audits, some of them have taken place, some of them are still taking place. We all suspect they'll turn out to be the same thing, that they'll be proven to be, false. But we know that these audits are taking place. We know that Michael Flynn is trying to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What you don't know is, and what the American public doesn't know, which I'm now bringing forward, is in the manner in which they're taking place.
Right.
They're not just taking place by people going out in front of the with signs protesting and doing things the old-fashioned American way. Oh, no. Well, the way this is happening is people are dirt is being brought up. Legislators are possibly with a high degree of confidence being bribed and being sought out.
Well, let's just keep those allegations for a second. Let's just keep those aside, because those are different. But I just want to say the facts that we do know. We know that there was an insurrection. We know that there was a Stop the Steal event. We know that there are audits. We know that there are attempts to get Donald Trump back in power that continue until this day, and that some state legislatures continue to audit those results, even though it seems kind of crazy to be doing it. This is all stuff that's undeniably factual. We all know has happened. And then what you're bringing to the table is your own experiences. But let's first understand why you're doing this. This is not helping your run for Senate. Presumably, the Republican Party is not going to be thrilled with the fact that you're out here, saying these things. Certainly the base would not be thrilled with you coming onto a national platform like this and revealing these things. So it's not helpful to your career.
Oh, no. I basically just committed career suicide. But that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the protection of the United States of America and the preservation of our democracy. That's what matters to me. I don't care about my political career. That they can go flush that.
I'm just trying to explain to people what the motivation is. People are saying already. They're saying, well, what's his? He must have another reason for doing this. Why is he doing it this way? And your motivation is certainly not career reasons, because it's certainly not helping your run for the Senate, and that was in next year's election. So it's not like you even knew that was.
Well, let me take a step back and explain to people kind of a little bit about my background, and then I kind of want to get into this U.S. Senate race, because there's a lot people don't know about how this race started and kind of what's really happening within the Republican Party. And I'm more than happy to expose this because it really does tie into a lot of these allegations that I made during the press conference. But I'm the
tell us about you.
Whistleblower.
Yeah, tell us about
so you. I'm HSBC whistleblower. So back in 2012, and back in 2010 and in 2011, there were billions of dollars in terrorist financing and drug cartel financing that was occurring at HSBC Bank. And I helped, I reported this to the United States government. I was passing information to the CIA.
You were working at the bank?
Yes. I was not working for the United States government. And my evidence led to one of the largest fines in U.S. history. It was $1.92 billion. Now, I failed, though. I was not successful. A lot of people said to me, oh, Everett, Rolling Stone came out with a story called Gangster Bankers. All these other news articles came out, Reuters. They said I was this hero. BS. That wasn't the case. I failed in what I was trying to do because not one banker went to jail. And if a banker went to jail, that would have accomplished something, because then all these other compliance fines throughout the years, billions of other dollars went to terrorists. Nothing changed. I didn't implement any change. I didn't do anything. So,
but
anyways,
you were a whistleblower. You were a credible witness. You were used as a credible witness by the investigators, and that seems to also check out. There's certainly nothing about that part of your history which suggests that you might have some ulterior motives, or you did that for the right reasons. You blew the whistle for the right reason. You were blowing the whistle on terrorist funding through HSBC. Right. Subsequently, you've also got yourself and this is probably the stuff that gets people kind of, it's unusual to have your own personal intelligence agency. That's not something that everyone has. So maybe you can tell people about why you started that.
Right. And this is the important part. And this is what people really need to understand. So after HSBC money laundering scandal, I lost everything. I mean, everything. And the one place that saved my life was actually P.F. Chang's. P.F. Chang's restaurant. I went from working at a Chinese bank to a Chinese restaurant, and I had no money. I was sleeping on a camping cot in a 400 square foot apartment. Even the intelligence report that went to U.S. Senate called HSBC sponsoring terrorism. I got that. I wrote that on a plastic fold-out table I bought for $19.95 from Walmart, I believe. And I had nothing. And I built. And what I wanted, and to be honest with you, I'm going to be perfectly frank in this story, that I had nothing left, and I was actually to a point where I was actually even going to take my own life because there was nothing left. No bankers went to jail. I failed in justice. And I had this pet rabbit, and I said to myself, who's going to feed the rabbit? And the rabbit saved my life, and that's why the company was named Tactical Rabbit. And what I wanted to do, though, was form a company that promoted justice and that held people accountable and fought corruption. So it wasn't a private intelligence agency to spy on people and be this PI firm. We're not a PI firm, and we're not one of these crazy private intelligence agencies like Black Cube or something. No. We're out to fight for the good guys and to do justice and to do what's right. And that's what people have to understand is the motive, not only behind my motive, but behind the motive behind the company Tactical Rabbit. So there's a big difference between myself and a company like Kroll or something.
Right.
Big huge.
But it is a bit eccentric to have have a company that does all these fight for justice things. It's great to be able to do, but who's paying for all of that?
That's a great question. So, and that's one thing I had to figure out was when I first started the company. I started at one contract at a time. I was working at P.F. Chang's, and then at night waited tables, and during the day I would get contracts, and I had I was able to recruit different former CIA officers, military intelligence, and I formed a team. It was very, very small at first, of course. And I just built the company little by little. This is over a 10-year period. And we ended up doing a lot of good. And I took on a lot of pro bono cases and Sweetbriar College, even. I don't know if that was in the Washington Post. I certainly didn't save the college. The women of Sweetbriar saved Sweetbriar College. But there was fraud there. So I jumped in on that case because I wanted to help and I felt it was the right thing to do. Again, this comes down to the notion, not the notion, but the actual fact that I base my life on doing the right thing. And this is, I'm not an angel or anything like that, but my compass is doing the right thing. And this is, if anyone looks at my life throughout Wikipedia or things I've done throughout my life, I'm sure there's a lot of researchers out there on social media. You'll see. And again, not everything I've done is perfect, but overall, I try to hit the mark in trying to do the right thing.
But just to land that one question, it's you paid for these things by yourself through money that you got. Yeah, I just want to know exactly how you funded all these exercises. In so some of them were very well meaning, and I know of some of these. These are not things that are new to me from meeting you, but there is certainly things that we've read in the news in the past about the Palm Beach Police County. There's others that we've read. I mean, these are things that are in the news. So why did you suddenly undertake those, and who paid for those?
Great question. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dodge it before. It was just I kind of went off on a rant there. But we do not have any backer whatsoever that is financing us from the side or anything like that. But we have private clients where law firms, Fortune 500 companies, hedge funds, all different types of clients in the private sector. So instead of using all of that money just on myself, I take a portion of those profits and I use them to fill in intelligence gaps within the USG to help the United States government and to help people in need. And it's used for good. It's self-financed operations.
Okay. But you're not tied in any way to the CIA. You're not tied in any way to any intelligence service, any government intelligence service. This is just your own operation. You want to do good for the world. You take some private clients. You also use some of that money to do these other initiatives.
Well, correct. We have no ties to the Central Intelligence Agency, no ties to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We have no ties to any government entity in the world or the United States, and we have no ties to anybody else. I am 100% of the company. There's no.
Now that happens in the intelligence world. I mean, this is certainly not.
Sure.
People get set up with companies. They do all this kind of work. But in reality, and I don't expect you're going to blow any cover here, but if there was, you wouldn't tell us, and it would be impossible for us to find, right? I mean, it's not like there are many entities that are set up as front companies for these intelligence, just generically. I'm not saying yours is, but it's quite, it's fairly common in the intelligence world, right?
Oh yeah, sure. They do it all the time, but for them to do it with me, that would be extremely stupid because we're a private intelligence agency saying that we have former CIA officers. The the actual operatives that we would have as cover people, they would easily get caught overseas. The whole cover just wouldn't work. In fact, to be perfectly frank, I mean, in the beginning when I first started Tactical Rabbit, I did reach out to the agency asking if that's something that we could do, or even the FBI. It's just not possible. It's just not a feasible.
How many people work for your company?
That's not something I want to disclose, but okay. it is a good amount. But we do have a fair amount in order to be able to conduct operations globally.
So we know then a little bit about your background. You're not going to say very much more, it seems like, in terms of the actual details of how many people work there. There's a lot of people I've seen, just as we're talking through here, there's message boards are filled up. A lot of people asking sort of very critical questions based on information that they've done. We've certainly seen it earlier before the show. I'm just going to ask people to be patient, and I'm going to get to those. I just want everyone to hear you out. I think if what you're saying is accurate, and I've done as much research as I can on this, and it certainly seems to check out. We should listen to what Mr. Stern has to say because it's important. It has potential national security implications, and we should just hear him out. I'm not saying that we know everything about him, and I'm not saying that we know everything that he's telling us is 100% correct, because we don't yet. But certainly the broad strokes of what he's talking about seem to check out. So take some time, if you don't mind, help me out. Let's listen to what he has to say, and let's see if we can really build a narrative here that makes sense to us. So I wanted you to go back to the very beginning of the story around the extortion, and I'm guessing that date, and I'm not sure it is the right date, but I'm guessing that date is the 26th of. Hang on, I've got it right here. Is it the 20? Maybe I don't have it right here.
I believe it was the 21st.
The 21st.
If you're speaking about the actual interaction with
the first
Velma and Mark.
time. Yeah, the first time you met with them, or they approached you.
Right. Before I get into them, though, I wanted to mention one thing about Trump, though. And the one thing I wanted to mention about Trump was that, you know, the Republican Party was having these secret Republican U.S. Senate meetings. This is about a year ago, and they had them as actual media blackouts. So they weren't allowing the media to take place, and they were having them in very remote locations. And in one meeting in particular, it became very clear to me that the nomination process was going to be really not a nomination process, that Donald Trump was going to be dictating this. And one of my opponents, I'm not going to mention his name because I'm not here to bash anybody, or this isn't political, but Trump, what Trump was trying to do in this race, what he is trying to do in this U.S. Senate race is control each U.S. Senate candidate. So whoever ends up as the nominee is part of the actual Trump camp. And
there's no
that's
doubt.
actually a significant, So
there's no doubt that what we're seeing is a GOP that's very much under the control of Trump and his allies. We see it every day. We see that it doesn't make sense what they're doing, but we see that they're beholden to him somehow. How that happens, we don't know, but maybe we'll find out tonight. So you with all that, let's just watch the time here. Let's jump to the 26th of April. I think that was the date, right? Is that correct?
21st.
Okay, well, I have it as a 26th. I apologize.
No, it actually could be the 26th. I apologize. For some reason, 21st is in my mind, but
yeah, I think it is the 26th. If I remember your transcript correctly, which I don't have in front of me right now, but I think you said it was correct. The 26th. So this was a meeting. Tell us what happened on that day.
Yeah, so I actually gave a speech. It was at the Berks County. I was at the Stoley Castle, and I gave a speech there. And then when I left the actual speech, I was approached by Velma and Ruth and Mark Still, and they told me they were from. They handed me their cards and told me they're from the Patriot Caucus, and I thought they were from the Patriots. I never heard of the Patriot Caucus before, so I thought they were more from, you know, Trump's far right group. Honestly, I didn't think anything of it. Velma said there was a national security issue that she wanted to discuss with me about. But she said this wasn't the proper, you know, forum to actually discuss it. And, you know, Velma said that she wanted to be in touch and they wanted to support my campaign. And, you know, I shook her hand. Again, to be honest with you, I was very, very tired. It was a long evening from dinner to giving a speech. I really just wanted to get out of there. And there was no red flag in dealing with Mark or Velma.
Who else was there? There were two other people there.
Well, the other person that was there that struck, I'm sorry. The only other thing that Velma did say in that meeting was that they were looking for intelligence, and they knew that I had Tactical Rabbit. And one thing that I did say to Velma, I made very clear to her, was that I was there at the event in the capacity as a U.S. Senate candidate and not as an intelligence director. And if she wanted to order intelligence or opposition research, it would have to be, she would have to contact Tactical Rabbit, and they could help her with that. There's a very fine line between running for office and then running a company. You can't pitch services at a campaign event. It's not legal.
Right.
And then I also met Doug Mastriano, who was there.
Now, Doug Mastriano is a congressman, right? Or is he a state senator?
Yeah, he's a state senator. And Doug Mastriano was also looking for intelligence. He was looking for intelligence in his governor's race. But Doug raised a red flag for me, to be honest with you. The guy is just so far right and truly believes that in this so-called election integrity, how they call it, and he just struck me as odd, and that Velma and Mark would introduce me to him. That three-way connection kind of raised. That was the only red flag I got out of that.
Who's the fourth person that was there? You mentioned in your press conference. A guy named Bill. Doesn't ring a bell.
It's not ringing a bell right now for me. I apologize.
So this is what you say in the press conference. You said, this is not from Mark. You said, they said to you, I'm not sure who it was. You said, we want to gather intelligence on senators, judges, congressmen, and states. And then you sort of mumbled a couple of words there and said to move them towards the audit. Can you explain exactly who said that and when did they say it and how did they say it? Because there's a lot in that sentence that you said that. This is from your transcript the other day.
Yeah, sure. So that statement was actually not made to me at Stoley Castle at the Berks County dinner. That actually was made to me over the phone. So I have to, as a U.S. Senate candidate, you have to make call lists. So I remember Velma and Mark gave me their business cards, so I had their cards. So I spoke to Velma. She patched in Mark. And they told me they were on an open line.
And when was this?
This was about a week later.
Okay,
and
early May,
there were some,
maybe.
Yeah, and there were some red flags that certainly presented itself in talking to Velma. There were some statements that were made. But the biggest one, how she started it off, because I said to her, she asked me about the intelligence again. And she said there was a national security issue, and I asked her, "What is the national security issue, and how can I help you?" And she said to me that they were recruiting former intelligence officers, former CIA, and also former foreign intelligence officers, including MI6, Mossad. And I was waiting for her to say something about the Russians. She did not.
Who's they? Who's recruiting? Who's doing the recruiting?
Well, that's what I didn't know at that exact point in time. But my antennas immediately now went up. The red flags went up. And what I needed to understand at this point, I decided to play along at this point, and pretty much, I guess you could say, launch an intelligence operation, you could say. But I needed to elicit the necessary information and ascertain the necessary intelligence to figure out, who they was or were, and also why were they recruiting these intelligence officers?
And were they trying to recruit you?
Yes. So they wanted Tactical Rabbit to be part of this, and they wanted to hire Tactical Rabbit, and they wanted to also, what later I found out, also use me because I had certain access to politicians and certain individuals to elicit information and to actually conduct human intelligence operations, against people in the high up people in the Republican Party, and again, human intelligence operations means human to human contact, and again, I never actually did that, or I never actually, and by the way, I never accepted money from these individuals or actually conducted anything against anybody. It was all pretend. But to them, though, I made it clear.
But this is not just opposition research. You're not just going to go make contact with your favorite senator to get some details. You're saying that you were. What was the mission that they were sending you on, or wanted to send you on?
Right, and this is what I had to clarify was, what exactly did they want done? And what they said to me was, again, to move people towards, move people towards the audit, gather dirt to move them towards the audit. And I said, okay, so you mean opposition research? And she goes, no, we need to move them towards the, it was action. So there's a big difference between opposition research, where any PI firm can do that. And again, we're not a PI firm. You would never hire, Catch Grab now offers that service, but we're not conducting opposition research in Pennsylvania. But what they were looking for was actual. Look, it was implied extortion, and anyone with half a brain would look at this and say, this is extortion, this is illegal, what they're trying to do.
Is it implied extortion, or could it be something else? I'm just just to think more broadly. This reminds me a lot of what the Thepsy Group was doing for the Republican Party during the 2016 nomination process. You remember they had that big big campaign. And later we found out a lot about that big campaign and how it was operating, where they were operating human intelligence, and they were using algorithms, and they were using social media and a whole bunch of other things to try and move the convention to Donald Trump, try to move the sentiment to Donald Trump. And it seemed to work. Is that what they were looking for? Is that what they were imagining? Or were they actually imagining you going and finding dirt on so-and-so's sexual habits or money habits or whatever, and using that to then say, well, now you've got to go and support the audits?
This was by again going into the later conversation that I had with Velma, but that they needed to move towards the audit by any means necessary, including the use of domestic terrorism. So if you're going to use domestic terrorism, that includes extortion.
Wow.
So there's no way around this. The way that, I mean, believe me, I tried so many times in my head in working this intelligence operation to figure out a way in which there was a logical explanation that what they were doing was okay, because that's just what you do. You try to find the null hypothesis, I guess you could say. And I couldn't. These people were just criminals. I'm just going to say it. It's just factual, and let them sue me for it. It's just that's what they are. They're not actually. Let me restate my what I just said.
They're not convicted criminals. Obviously, these are allegations you're making.
Velma, the Patriot Caucus and what these people are doing are domestic terrorists. They're not criminals.
Mm-hmm. So let me just back up here a little bit. You didn't do any of the stuff for them. You did some work for you. You engaged with them over a period of time. How many months would you say you engaged with them?
I would say probably about 3 or 4 months.
Okay. And your belief is that they were asking you to ultimately engage in something that would be criminal, in trying to either blackmail or extort politicians to move them towards an audit, so they would support an audit. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, I was told that, not told, but I was given in writing, in text messages and in other communications that are, actually documented, that there were actual targets and they were being provided to me. Financing was being discussed. I mean, this is not just yes, this is and again, the word.
So you were given actual instructions. Domestic terrorism was used. You were given instructions written in text form from them. And do you have any audio tapes or any recordings of them? Anything that would prove otherwise?
Al Hartman did leave me a number of messages about moving about the audit in Pennsylvania, about where me and myself and my intelligence officers where we were, and how we were going to be moving into Michigan next. There's a number of voicemails. Now, I had to be very careful here, and I want to make this very clear to everyone listening, that not one law was broken, because Pennsylvania is not, you cannot just record people. So I did not record anybody because you can't just do that. Even if they're committing whatever crime, you can't do it. So I had to wait for voicemails to come in. I had to wait. And also, if there's due to a possible ongoing investigation here, I did not want to do anything that could mess that up, that could set loose somebody free, because I did not follow a certain procedure.
Right. I want to get back to Hartman in a second, but I just wanted to underline for everybody who we're dealing with here, because here is Mastriano, and I think this is Rick. I don't know how you say his last name.
Saccone.
This is them on January the 6th. This is them participating in the events, the riots, the coup, whatever you want to call it, at the Capitol. This is part of many evidence that we have of them doing that. And these are the associates, right? These are the people that are associating. You saw Mastriano in the previous diagram, but certainly these are the same group of people. Is that correct?
Saccone was also seen when I received the target for Brian Fitzpatrick, and also Senator Pat Toomey. Saccone was there. He gave the speech right before I did. Okay.
And Mastriano was involved in this directly or not?
Senator Mastriano was helped by Al Hartman. I personally was not involved in assisting or in many interactions with Senator Mastriano.
Okay, but he's associated with. It's certainly associated with Flynn. We've seen him a lot with Flynn over
So,
the.
so he is associated with Patriot Caucus.
Right. So let's talk about Patriot Caucus. Here's billionaire Al Hartman, and here's Michael Flynn. And I've never heard of Patriot Caucus, and I've studied this a lot, and certainly other researchers on the show have done a lot of work. Patriot Caucus is not on my radar. Who are they? What do they do? Why are they different from the other Patriots?
So Patriot Caucus was, and this is what I didn't understand either at first, because but Patriot Caucus is meant to be a coalition to join up all the different Patriot groups throughout the United States, and so there's a different Patriot Caucus in each state, and it's meant to serve as a governing body, I guess you could say, and what it really was aimed to do, I think initially, this is my theory, was to break off from the Republican Party, but they're meant to serve as a coalition. And the Patriot Caucus is controlled by General Flynn, and Ivan Reichlin serves as General Flynn's attorney and provides him the attorney-client privilege. And then Ivan is, as you know, he's also a former Green Beret. He also knows what he's doing from an intelligence standpoint.
I mean, everyone I talk to about this guy, he's a pretty dangerous dude by all accounts. I'll show a picture of him so everyone can know exactly who we're dealing with, and we'll certainly go into him in a lot more detail later on. But this is, I guess he's Mike Flynn's lawyer is the official term, but he's associate of Mike Flynn's. He's a Green Beret with a fluent knowledge in Russian. He's got a Russian wife, I believe, and he's run for office in Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, unsuccessfully. But he's really an operator. Like, he really seems to move in those circles. And I'm going to share with everybody a piece of video that I found on his Instagram account, which I thought was very revealing related to all of this. And maybe now's the time to do it, because here, it underlines some of your claims here that there is a real effort to try and get people on the record to say, let's have an audit. And this is I'm not sure who the person is that he's talking to, although he looks like a familiar face. Maybe other people will know, but it's an unusual Instagram post. And it basically, it's Chuck Smith is the guy's name. And it's just there to support an audit. It doesn't really ring 100% true. I'm going to play it for everybody so everyone gets a sense of what this, maybe they'll help people understand what might be going on here from Reichlin and other people.
All right, out of the blue, people coming from all over Virginia, rallying for audits, right? And none other than one of the most respected leaders in Virginia I got here with me, Chuck Smith.
Absolutely.
What do you think we should do in Virginia for the 2020 election?
Oh, we have to audit. I mean, you can't have integrity if you can't audit. We have a constitution, we have laws, and rules and laws control. If there's ever a doubt, then you have to have a play-by-play picture of where to go from here, and you do that by audits. The integrity of our system, our oath, and everything that we believe in relies on things functioning as they should. One vote, one person, one vote. If there's anything contrary to that, if there's any question about that, you need an audit trail. That's just extremely important. It's almost second nature, common sense. Without an audit, there will always be doubt. And at the end of the day, in order to go forward, you got to stop going backwards.
So what do you think, what's your response to the Department of Justice right now?
Oh, I think it's ridiculous.
And then using the 1960 Civil Rights Act to claim that digital fake votes and fake paper votes somehow to audit them and nullify them is racist.
Wasn't it Nancy Pelosi and the Congress, the runaway Congress, and the Democrat administration that told Sessoms that, in fact, put the fear of God in Sessoms, that he backed down and recused himself, but told him that they couldn't be a puppet of the president? And so then the AG that replaced him, didn't they back him into a corner in those interviews before Congress, where they really stormed all over his head, telling him that he could not be a puppet of the president? No, we need to have a DOJ that is not a puppet of the president, if that's the policy they're going to follow.
You know, this goes on, and I don't feel like we need to air the whole thing, but there's something really odd about that. I mean, it just doesn't feel authentic. I don't know. It certainly has happened, of course, authentically, but there's no, just shows up in the middle of his Instagram feed. It's the rare thing. It's not the same as anything else on his Instagram feed. And, you know, he pops up and he's obviously shooting himself. And he himself says, suddenly, out of the blue, all these people are showing up to support the audit. Now, you're saying that there's a movement as well going on behind the scenes that might be helping people find their way to supporting this audit, whether it's perhaps blackmail, extortion, or other things.
Yes, 100%. It's not debatable. In my mind, right now, it's debatable in other people's minds in the American public, and that's what I'm trying to alleviate right now.
It certainly makes. I mean, it's not out of character or out of the, you know, certainly the modus operandi of this group of people. It's not beyond them to operate in this way. So, you know, the question is it completely illegal? Or do we know that there's anything illegal going on? You seem to say that they wanted you to do things illegal, or certainly allowed for illegal things, but is there anything criminal that they did, or is this, you know, nudging, influencing, pushing people? You know, is it typical stuff that politicians do?
No, this is 100% election fraud and election crimes, and the FBI. This is an absolute violation of our Constitution and the undermining of our democracy. And there's no. This is the line has clearly been drawn on this one. This is not a gray issue.
So this is not the first time or the last time that you know, Ivan Reichlen here on behalf of Flynn over there has been doing this kind of stuff. There's a couple of instances again on his Instagram feed where, you know, Flynn is seen to be endorsing some of these politicians who came out in favor of an audit. And there are other instances, I just can't find them right now. You know, certainly I'll just run through some of the pictures here because it's worth seeing. You know, he does a lot of schmoozing in high-end places. In some cases, a lot of fundraising as well going on there. He was a candidate for office. He didn't succeed, as we mentioned. He also has his own Cameo account, which he suddenly adopts a very American accent for, because normally he doesn't have a very American accent. But in this particular Cameo clip, he adopted a very American accent. And interestingly enough, he is capable of, here's another picture that he broke bread with some officer. I don't know where this is from, but maybe other people will recognize it. He also posts from his Instagram, from his phone feed, all the apps he uses. Many of them are, of course, Russian apps, as certainly many of them are, what do you call it, encrypted apps. And then here he is at the White House, with his good friend, real Ben Carson. I don't know why he was at the White House, what got him to be at the White House, but we certainly see that he's connected to all the power structures that were involved in January the 6th and before that. So I want to take a break, and then when we come back, I do want to pick up where we left off now. So we'll go back, you know, to you wanting to meet, or you being set up for a meeting with General Flynn. And that's going to be an interesting story in itself. And then we'll build out from there. And we'll take any questions. I know there's a lot of great comments. I want to hear everyone's comments, and I'm going to check them during this break. And we'll get to answer those in just a moment when we return on Narrative. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in just a minute with Everett Stern. Here we go. Hi, friends. Thanks for supporting Narrative. This portion of the show is brought to you by Policy Genius. Summer's coming to an end and the leaves are about to fall. And while Mother Nature does her thing preparing for the new season, you can do yours by getting free life insurance quotes with Policy Genius. You could save $1,300 or more per year on life insurance by using Policy Genius simply to compare policies. The licensed experts at Policy Genius work for you, not the insurance companies, so you can trust them to help you navigate every step of the shopping and buying experience. Policy Genius's excellent service has been endorsed by thousands of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot and Google, and eligible applicants can get covered in as little as a week, thanks to an award-winning policy option that swaps the standard medical exam requirement for a simple phone call. This exclusive policy was recently rated #1 by Forbes Advisor, higher than options from Ladder, Ethos, and Bestow. Visit policygenius.com and you'll be able to work out your coverage needs in minutes and find your best price for life insurance. And Policy Genius will take care of the paperwork and scheduling at no cost to you. They never sell the information you give them to other companies or add extra fees. Head to policygenius.com to get started right now. Policy Genius, when it comes to insurance, it's nice to get it right. Hi, friends. Thanks. And welcome back to Narrative with Everett Stern. Everett, there are questions online about this caucus. I mean, a lot of people have not heard about it. A lot of people have not heard, and I have not heard about it. Others have heard about it as being sort of an overarching group. You say it's funded by Al Hartman, this billionaire out of Houston. You say that Michael Flynn is the leader of it. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how did you come to be invited to meet General Flynn in that context? Can you help describe the weeks and days leading up to that meeting, which was what in May? It must have been in May.
Sure. So there was actually kind of a relationship that was developed between myself and Al Hartman. Al Hartman first put me in touch with Trump's people, with America First, and then Al Hartman was adamant on him putting me in touch with General Flynn, and this was critical because General Flynn, I guess, wanted my help with certain operations or. Can
I clarify? How did you meet Al Hartman? How did you meet Al Hartman? Just to clarify that one point.
Yeah, Al Hartman was introduced to me through a friend of a friend of a friend. It was a very odd thing that actually myself and a number of government officials and intelligence officers are trying to figure out how Al Hartman came into my world, whether Flynn actually directed him towards me to bring myself in. It's kind of a convoluted situation. I can't get into the full details of Al right now, but Al was someone who was introduced to me. I did not actually approach Al.
And America First, how did you relate to America First?
Al Hartman is very plugged in with America First and with Donald Trump. And Al Hartman wanted America First and Donald Trump to support my U.S. Senate campaign.
And did they?
No, okay. Because and that's for reasons I'm more than happy to get into if the audience wants me to later. But what Al Hartman though was absolutely the financier behind Flynn. And I was actually introduced to Ivan Reichlin by Al Hartman. I mean, I was literally on the phone with Al Hartman, and he plugged me in with Ivan, and then Ivan actually said, in my first interaction with Ivan, told Al to drop off the line, and that's when the interrogation started for me to start the testing. To make sure I wasn't a mole or anything like that. Right. They were very paranoid of moles and rats within the organization.
Just explain to me, did Al Hartman support your run for the Senate? Is he a funder of yours?
No, I would not take any money from. There was no exchange of money between myself or any of these individuals.
Okay. So then Al introduces you to Ivan Reichlin. For what purpose?
To help overturn the audit and to help start providing intelligence. Okay. And he wanted to introduce me inside the organization and felt that Task-Rabbit would be key in doing so. And also myself as a U.S. Senate candidate having that access. That's what. So Al. But see, Al wasn't just a financier. He was kind of like an operator at the same time. He was very much a believer and someone who was instrumental. And I think the right word is an activist in trying to get these audits overturned.
Okay. There's confusion here amongst the people on chat. They're saying there's America First related to Fuentes. Is that the America First you're talking about, or are you talking about an American First related to? There were all sorts of different group names during those years. Which one are you specifically talking about?
This has to do directly with Donald Trump.
So well, I don't remember all these committees, but okay, it was a PAC related to Donald Trump. Is that correct?
I honestly don't know. I didn't get far enough down that thread. I didn't pull that thread far enough. I had very brief conversations with those individuals, and that was it. Okay.
So now you're on your way to talk to Reichland, and he starts doing this battery of tests with you. What kind of tests? Can you tell us what tests they were? Why did he do them? And how did the results turn out?
Well, I mean, the first he wanted to know how long I was a candidate for the CIA's clandestine service for. Again, I was a candidate for NCS, and then I was rejected from that program. And I told them
this was when I didn't know this about you. So tell me when this was.
This was back in 2006. Okay. And again, I was rejected from I was 100% rejected from that. But I told him it was classified. He told me that he was going to call somebody at agency and find out, the truth, which was very concerning considering his connections. Maybe he could figure that out. I didn't know. But he did also, he wanted to know about my relationship with Maxine Waters. I helped.
What's your relationship with her?
I helped with the anti-money laundering bill that she was, again, Maxine Congresswoman Maxine Waters, her and I share very different political views, but look, if she wants to lock up bankers in jail, I'm more than happy to help. I mean, let's work together and cross the aisle, right?
This was related to your HSBC work, is that right? Or
right. So it had nothing to do with correct. And he wanted to know about family. He wanted to know about. He had a number of questions. And then he said, "Everett, let me hang up the phone and run some background checks on you." And then he hung up the phone on me. And then he sent me a whole bunch of text messages asking me if he knew if I knew this person, that the battery went on and on and on. And again, this is all documented. And what ended up happening was. Again, I am not a trained intelligence officer or operative, but I was able to get past his tests.
So he then gives you a background check. He clears you. And he doesn't seem to mind that you're, Maxine Waters. That would be a big red flag for him, I would think. Or, that would just certainly set something off. But you pass somehow.
Yeah, it was a huge problem. The Maxine Waters thing was a huge issue, I had to navigate around this. And believe me, this was over a series of hours.
Over hours over one day, or hours over a period of time?
Hours over 1 day of questioning from him, but then there was about a week of vetting. After that I had to go through as well, but I can't get into some of that.
Okay, so he's then really vetting you for a meeting with Flynn. Is that the purpose of what he's doing? Is that what or is he vetting you for work for Flynn?
He was vetting for both. So he actually, after I passed the test, he wanted to set up a meeting with me to meet with him, Sidney Powell, Giuliani, at Trump Hotel in DC. He wanted to have a meeting with himself as well, and from there he wanted to discuss operations. Then he canceled that meeting, and then he said to me, "I need you to give a speech at the Patriots as a final test, and if you pass that test, then we'll be able to give you the targets, and you can go on and do your operation." Now, the problem with giving a speech to the Patriots is me being holding my viewpoints. You have to remember you're standing in front of a bunch of people with guns and people who are pretty radical with and Proud Boys, and it's a pretty serious.
So who
situation.
Are the Patriots? Are the Patriots a Patriots Caucus, or is it a different group now?
Right. So the Patriots are the far right group for Trump, but they're also mixed in with Proud Boys, and they're mixed in with, it's very, very far right extreme. They believe January. A lot of them, they all believe that January 6th was okay. As you saw, I confronted a lot of them actually in that YouTube video. I don't know if some of you saw. But they this is not a group I wanted to be speaking in front of. But I
So
need to give a speech in front of them.
When did you do that speech?
I gave that speech about 2 days later, but and the location was given to me at very last minute notice, so I wouldn't have a lot of time.
Do you remember where it was?
Yes.
Can you tell us where?
The actual speech was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
In a barn in Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
It was actually kind of in a barn. So if you look at some of the photos, one photo I posted on Twitter, it was kind of like in this overhang. It looked kind of like a hangar type. Not a barn, but I can't describe it.
What color was it? Do you remember the color of the brick?
Yeah, it wasn't brick. It was wood. It was like a pavilion. That's the word, a pavilion.
I want to show you a picture. I'm going to try to pull up a picture from another investigation that we've done. But I want you to keep telling the story while you keep doing that, because there is that's unusually interesting. That it was in a barn in Lancaster or an overhang, as you say. But tell us more about the speech and as you were doing it. What happened before, what happened during the speech, and then what happened immediately afterwards.
Yeah, no. So I gave this speech. I talked about breaking off from the Republican Party, pro Flynn, pro Trump. I went against everything that I basically stand for, and I was ready to throw up as I was giving the speech. But again, I had to do this to get done what needed to get done to protect the United States. And you have to understand, sometimes in intelligence, you have to do things you don't necessarily believe in to get the job done. But
you're not intelligence. You're working as a on your own.
I was working as a private citizen involved in a private intelligence operation.
Okay, so was Reichland there? Was Reichland there?
No,
okay.
No.
Who was there?
Who was there? Were a whole bunch of patriots, and then Velma showed up, and Velma showed up in a military tank top with a Flynn hat and sunglasses, and it looked pretty scary. She was not dressed as a normal individual, and at that point in time, she was sitting with another gentleman. And that gentleman turned out, actually, we found out later, was Brian Fitzpatrick's old opponent. And then it was after that, Velma came over. She had a computer with her, had a list of people in it, and she provided me. I asked her who the targets were, and she gave me Senator Pat Toomey and Brian Fitzpatrick as those two targets.
It's so interesting. I'm going to try show you this. I don't know if these are full videos or whether they are. I'm just going to take a little second here, if you don't mind, while I pull this up, because a barn has come up in a previous investigation that we've done, and it's interesting that it's in Lancaster. And it's interesting who the owner is, and we'll get to all of that in a second. But I want to show it to you, and maybe you can confirm or deny whether it is, specifically the one you're talking about. So this is a Google image from above. It might not be easy to see, but here is this barn in question. Does that look familiar to you at all?
No. The pavilion, it was a very short, maybe 15 feet to 20 feet up height. That seems like a much bigger structure than where I was at.
Okay, it's an interesting thing, but on the ground it doesn't really look as much. But I'll let's do this after the show. I don't want to throw stuff at you that is interesting. Sorry, that's not it. That's the. There's more. I just don't want to do this in the middle of a show. But let me ask you, did you meet anyone by the name of Charles Bousman while you were there? Does that ring a bell? Russian insider.
No.
Okay.
Charles Bousman does not. No.
Okay.
It's not
okay. Let's move on then. So let's get to Michael Flynn, because that's really important for us to get to. You've done the speech, you passed the test. Reichland, who tells you then that you can go and see Flynn, and where does that happen?
Yeah, so there's this conference called the Ziglag Conference, and I was invited to that by Al Hartman, and that conference is supposed to be for evangelical Christians who are going down to this conference. And what I was told immediately after giving the targets, that General Flynn wanted to have a private meeting with me, and Al Hartman arranged for this meeting to take place. And within 48 hours, I was set to fly out to Dallas to meet at the Omni Hotel, and to meet General Flynn and to get further operational instructions.
What was the name of the conference, just so we have it?
It's actually called the Ziglag Conference. Maybe I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but
because you did also have a Q conference right at the same time, right? I think in May there was at the Omni Hotel. Michael Flynn, Sidney Powell had a Q convention. Is that the same? Was it related to that, or is it just a different thing?
I'm honestly not
Okay.
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
You don't believe in Q, or do you? I don't know. Maybe you do believe in Q. Is that part of your belief structure?
I believe that these QAnon people exist, and I believe that they are extremely mentally ill. But if you're asking me if I'm personally believing in Q, I know.
Okay.
No.
So why you have this meeting then with Michael Flynn? It's set up. Presumably it means work for you, right? Presumably this is also not just an opportunity to go and find out what they're doing and do intelligence work, but potentially this is work for your company, right? Would it have been both of those things, or was it just one of those?
No, we could not accept money for this whatsoever.
Okay.
If I accepted one dime from them, I would be in jail for life. There's just no way I could ever. It's not even an ethical issue; it's a criminal issue.
Right. So you went there just to find out for your own intelligence purposes, or was it for somebody else's intelligence purposes? I mean, to go all the way there to meet with Michael Flynn. I mean, that sounds like a pretty high stakes meeting, and it might not be something that you would undertake on your own.
No, it is something. This is something I wanted to do because I felt that this was the key where I could make a significant positive difference and really defend the United States. And again, even though as a private citizen, we all have a responsibility and a duty to defend the United States and to do the right thing and to step up, especially now in today's day, especially after January 6th. Mm-hmm. But just because I don't work for the government, that doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to do the right thing. And there's nothing wrong with acting as a private citizen, gathering intelligence, and nothing wrong with that. As long as I don't accept money from somebody, you can
as long as you're not committing a crime, it's fine, right?
Right. Right. Now, the whole problem though with this situation turned into was that, look, if I'm walking into a room with a 3-star a close confidant of mine, and a number of people who I know and my counsel, they recommended, they said to me, look, Everett, you walk into a room with a 3-star general who's committing treason, and the FBI is bugging the room or something, or who knows what's going on. I'm not accusing the FBI of anything, but who knows with a crazy situation like this what I could be accused of, especially I'm playing a double agent type role, which I have been for 3-4 months now.
But for yourself, not for
correct,
the FBI.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. For myself, I was not sourced. I was not working for the FBI. I was not working for the CIA. But if I was working, I was actually working for myself. I was 100% self-directed. That's actually what it's called. But I was reporting back to the FBI, and I was certainly doing that. I reported
throughout
back
the entire
to the
thing. You're reporting back to the FBI, or just during this last process here with Flynn?
No. I was. The FBI had. Let me. I'd be careful what I say here, but they had full notification of what they had full notification of what was going on. But I just have to move my computer for 1 second because I'm running out of battery here.
No worries.
Just bear with me for 1 second.
Okay, no worries.
I apologize.
No worries. You got to do what you got to do. This is taking a little bit longer than it's been an hour, fascinating hour, I will say. And thanks to everybody who's who's sharing this information and questions. I've only got one chat group up. I don't have all of them, but I'm sure there's other interesting comments being made elsewhere. So I'm going to, when I can, I'm just going to check into the YouTube page as well. Everett, when you're ready, when you're set up,
Yeah.
let's continue the conversations. Tell me what you think.
Yeah. So look, the Bureau had knowledge of but look, I was self-directed. I was not a source, and again, by me walking into a room with a 3-star general, this could be considered me committing a crime. It's possible. Who knew? So it was a risk.
Well, it depends what you're discussing, but yeah, there's a real potential that you're involved in a criminal conversation. Then, as you're alleging,
correct,
that they were considering all sorts of things, including domestic terror. You wouldn't want to walk into. I mean, I wouldn't walk into that room. But I mean, here you are. You walked in, but you didn't walk in. You chose not to walk in, based on counsels from your friends, right?
Yeah. Yes. Let me put it this way: I was more than willing to walk into that room, I'll just put. I'll leave it at that. I was more than willing to walk into that room.
So, is that where the trail ends? It ends there. It ends with you not going to see Michael Flynn because, just to let everyone know, you ended up fabricating a story and not going at the last minute. Is that where the story ends?
No.
Where does it go from there?
It's still going on.
Right now?
Yes.
Meaning what? What does that mean? And it's difficult for you to answer all of these questions. I understand that.
I know. It puts me in a bad position, but let's just say that this story does not end until General Flynn and this group is dismantled and the United States is protected.
And without revealing too much, are you currently in contact with any law enforcement?
I can't say whether or not I just can't comment on any type of
right. I understand.
Anything like that.
So this is a difficult situation, and regardless of your political background or your political beliefs, this would be an unsettling situation to be in. This is not something you would drive yourself into willingly. I mean, this is something you would find yourself in and find it pretty distressing. I can't imagine a situation where anyone would do this on purpose, or can you imagine that situation? Is there any way that that's true?
Let me say this, and I say this with all sincerity. I really, out of all the sleepless nights I've had, I really wish that Velma and Mark never approached me that night. And but you know what? They did. And sometimes in life, when the enemy comes for you, you certainly better fight back.
And so you're committed to continuing this fight to try and bring them to justice. Where does it go from here? I mean, it's certainly difficult for your political career. And I suspect maybe personally threatening as well. I mean, how do you, what do you do from here?
Yeah, look, I mean, if you're asking from a safety standpoint, yeah, look, we're talking about a large group of extremists are gonna, come at me, and this is not me being paranoid. This is me being factual. I think everyone out there realizes that. Honestly, again, I'm defending the United States. I believe in what I'm doing. I'm protecting. I'm protecting our democracy, and it is an honor to be able to fight people like Ivan and Flynn, and defend, defend everything that every soldier has died for in American history. it is an absolute honor. So you know what? I have no complaints right now.
I definitely feel that in all the conversations we've had, and there haven't been many, just we first spoke today on the phone. And if everyone's asking online how we connected, I saw your press conference. Someone sent me a link to your press conference, and it was either very early on maybe even late on Friday night, somewhere in the middle of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I think. When was your press conference? Just to confirm this, it was on Saturday, I think, your press conference.
Yes.
Yeah. So that night,
yeah.
I saw it, and I just reached out to you online, and there was a bit of back and forth, and that's how we connected. So that's all there is. There's a lot for people to take in. I mean, the things that I step away from all these situations and say, are we seeing all of this happening in the real world? And we are seeing attempts to audit the election still. We are seeing those attempts to audit the election by Sidney Powell, by Giuliani, by this extravagant group of people who are still out there trying to do it. The ninjas, whatever you call them, you know, in many states, there are still efforts underway to overturn the elections for whatever reason. Some might be ulterior motives. Some might be to actually turn over the elections. Some might be to secure different people for the next elections. Who knows? But we are seeing this. We still see Michael Flynn organizing militia around the country and bringing together sort of these white nationalist followers around the country when he goes out and does all these sermons and speaks to people. We're seeing that actually still happening. He's still very much active. And we're seeing Reichlen being involved in all sorts of interesting activities. We saw that one videotape that he took there. You know, he is an interesting character. I've got tape here, you know, where he is meeting a voter while he's campaigning during this current Virginia election. Maybe I'll just play it for you because, you know, the voter is speaking in Russian. This is a Green Beret. I don't know how he learned Russian, but, you know, the very fact that he can speak Russian so fluently, I mean, it certainly raises questions. He looks and sounds, I would say, like he could very well fit well into a Russian intelligence service. So, you know, I'm not saying he is, because I don't know what he is, but I'm saying that there's a lot of things here which add up to what's happening in real life. So what you've painted for us is the internal workings. I don't know if they're criminal. I can't tell if they're criminal. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an investigator. I'll take your word for it that they are criminal. But there is you've painted for us a scheme, at least, that is intended to blackmail or push, or however what they call it, influence politicians into a position which would put them in a position where they would be supportive of what someone told them to be, i.e. Donald Trump or Michael Flynn. So these are all very consistent. I mean, we've seen it throughout the entire Republican Party. We've seen, you know, I was listening to a tape earlier on of Kevin McCarthy full-throatedly saying that Joe Biden is the right president of the United States, and that Donald Trump is the person responsible for what happened on January 6th. But he said that on January 7th, or maybe a little later during the impeachment trial. But by now he's changed his tune completely. So why have all these people, why has the entire Republican Party changed its point of view all at the same time? What is causing these people to do that? You have to think that they're being exerted influence, whether that's coming from, you know, just general influence, whether that's, as you suggest, maybe illegal influence. We don't know. But it seems to be happening not only on a state level, as you've described, in these states where there's audits, but also in the national party. I mean, it's very hard to avoid those conclusions. Those are real. Those things, everything I've said, are absolutely factual. So, you know, what are the things that could cause someone to do this?
Power, money, and honestly, it really comes down to those two things. Mm-hmm. You know, power and money. Look, we've seen this throughout history. And one thing I'll say right now, and I said this in the press conference, that my party, the Republican Party, needs to take a good hard look in the mirror, because we are going down a road that we should not be going down. This is not the Republican Party of Lincoln, or what our this is just not. It's just not America.
It also seems like they're, as you suggest, they could be captive to a situation where they're being extorted or blackmailed, and maybe they think they'll get out of it. Maybe they think at some point, there'll be the right moment to get out of it. It doesn't appear to be that there is a right point to get out of it, because every time they seem to reach for that exit, as they did after January 6th, as they did with the impeachment trials, they get pulled right back into the bus. The bus is still careening off the edge, and we're still here 6 months later, and these people are still doing what they're doing. And I don't get a sense that the Republican Party is going to change, because they feel like, for whatever reason, they're compromised to a point where they can no longer operate on their own free will. That's my feeling about them. I have no way of knowing that, but it certainly is a terrifying situation to contemplate for one of two of America's parties to be so compromised, to have this entire maybe criminal campaign around them, but certainly an influence campaign around them that is not allowing them to operate of their free will, which means they're not representing the people of the country.
And one thing I'll say, though, is one of the most important things about America is hope. And I certainly have extreme hope that the Republican Party will fix itself, and sanity will be restored. I have that. I just have that hope. I don't know. It's just throughout history we've always pulled it off. Not just the Republican Party, but Democrat, Republican, Americans in general. We're all Americans. We've always pulled it off. And this corruption and this evil occurring right now is just going to go away eventually. But we have to fight it out. It's not just going to go away on its own. We have to fight it. We have to fight on this one.
I think you're right, and I know people have different opinions about you. I've only known you for a few hours, but I must say your story does check out. But it's also clear to me that you're doing it for the right reasons. To me, you're doing it for the right reasons. I feel like that you genuinely believe that it is important to expose these things to the public. There's certainly no good reason to do it otherwise. I mean, maybe you could be interested in publicity, but boy, that's a hell of a way to find publicity. There's many other ways than to go and confront these major figures. It certainly seems to make some sense to me. Other people might disagree, and I want to hear from everybody, because I don't know any more than you know now. You've certainly had as much information as I have, but I think it rings true that the Republican Party and members of the Republican Party could be under some sort of blackmail scheme or some sort of extortion scheme to operate in certain ways. I don't think that's hard to imagine at all under the current circumstances. I'm going to just say, anyone, if you want to, just on the Twitter chat mainly, if there's any last questions before I let you go. I did want to ask you about a comment from Scott Stedman, who's a journalist for another organization whose name escapes me for a second, but he said something about you doing something a few years ago with him, and he said he said publicity hunter. I don't remember the exact terms, but we discussed this earlier. Tell me what's your version of that story?
Well, look, I don't want to give this individual too much publicity himself, but what I will say is that individual, look, Tactical Rabbit does a lot of news stories, and a lot of reporters come to us wanting to publish those news stories. Mm-hmm. He was one of those reporters that wanted this story on this Russian stock that was a front and I don't want to get into that. It's not the focus point of this segment, but he wanted that story. We vetted him out, and we felt he was incredible, and we wanted to go to the Wall Street Journal and a couple of other news organizations instead, which is our right to do. It's nothing personal against him. In fact, I don't have anything personal against him. He might be a fine gentleman. I don't know. I don't even care what he says about me. It doesn't matter. All I know is that from a professional standpoint, I wanted to go to a more credible journalist who had more of a track record in journalism, who published with newspapers, and that's it. It had nothing to. It doesn't even mean that he's a bad journalist. It just means that I want to go with someone who did something in newspapers. That's it, and that's my right. And if he has an issue with that and feels I'm a publicity hunter because of that, that's fine. But what's very important is that in order for me to expose the bad guys, remember, I don't have arrest powers. So the only way that I do it with Tactical Rabbit is through exposure. So am I a publicity hunter? I guess through getting news stories published, but a lot of people try to get news stories published. So I don't see where that's an issue.
I do feel like you're a very unique animal in that, and as I said earlier, not many people have private intelligence firms which they can use for whatever they might choose to use them. You are one of those people that obviously requires some sort of relationship with the press. So I'm going to let that just stand, and hopefully that's explain some of what was being said there. I think we should wrap up now because, boy, we've had a lot of interesting conversation tonight. I know that so many people helped me and in online tonight and before just to verify some of these facts and sharing information with me. I'm really thankful to everybody for all you've provided. I wasn't able to get to absolutely everything, but I think we did give everyone a good sense of Everett Stern's story here. I think it's much clearer to people what you say happened, and I wish you all the best, and I really hope that you stay safe, and I hope that this does get resolved in the way you hope it does, because we're all ultimately on the same side here. We all are interested in the United States continuing to be a good and fair democracy, and that these villains are put away, because that's the only way we can have that democracy. So thank you very much. My first GOP candidate on the show. I want to thank you very much for being here and being so honest and taking the time. I know you've got lots of other documents and stuff that you can share at a later stage, and I'm hoping you will be able to do that when you come back on the show, if you'll agree to do that, or through other means. But that would be great if you could also share that with us. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Is there any way that if people want to get in touch with you, support you, anything like that, what should they do?
It really, if they want to tweet out, I'm trying to answer as many tweets as possible, but I'm trying to be as honest and transparent, but it's hard. But you're being inundated. But I want people to ask questions, but I'm trying my best. So certainly bear with me.
And you're at Everett Stern 1, right? That's if people are looking for you on Twitter, that's where they can find you.
Yeah, there seems to be some people impersonating me. So at Everett Stern 1. And the other comment I just wanted to make was, some people are looking at older tweets of mine on timeline. I want people to understand that I had a campaign team before, and they were fired because they weren't in line with my value system and my. So just understand the difference between politics and my actual values, which obviously were dramatically changed. I don't want people being influenced by things that I didn't actually say or believe.
People are saying, how can citizen journalists help? How can many of the viewers of this show are part of the crowd that's helped discover Trump Russia? And I'm going to say to them what I hope you would say is that fact check everything, research everything, and start diving down these rabbit holes. I mean, there's so much information we learned tonight. It's so much information, in fact, that I think that there's a world of that we cannot see, that we can uncover if many minds come to it. But what's your suggestion for everybody and how they can help?
Yeah, look, it's the same way how Tactical Rabbit operates. It's a private intelligence agency. Do your own investigation work. You can make a significant positive difference yourself and submit it to news organizations. Let them know, and also pressure, the mainstream media, to report. The reason why they're not reporting right now is because they're vetting all the facts and it takes them longer. But we have to get this story out there and keep the pressure up, and don't let this go away. But certainly do your own research and keep digging.
And that is important, by the way. Then people are asking about why the mainstream media has not picked it up. Well, they're not as fast as I am, but also they're doing their own internal fact checks and they go through their own systems, as many of you know. Must take a little longer than the one-man show here. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the biggest hurdle right now with mainstream media are their legal teams, and they're afraid of being sued. So sure. that's where. But look, the truth's going to come out, and I'm not worried about it. So just hang in there and believe me that it's not because this stuff's not credible or it's not true. It just takes them longer.
Absolutely. Everett Stern, thank you very much, the candidate for the GOP in Pennsylvania. Thank you very much for being here, and someone who's alleging these crimes against Flynn and company. Thank you very much for joining us on Narrative tonight, and thanks to all our viewers. Tomorrow night, Narrative is back. Sherry Jacobus will be returning to the show after a bit of an absence. We're really excited to have Sherry back on. We are going to look at what's going on in election night tonight. Boy, what a divided country we are, and suddenly the GOP is back. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll give you full analysis, maybe if the results are actually finished. They might still be counting votes. So we'll see you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And in the meantime, thanks for watching Narrative. Have a great night, everybody. Narrative is made possible by viewers like you. Join today and support truly independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative. That's patreon.com/narrative.